Hello and welcome to the Simple Politics podcast. I'm Diane Daniels and I'm here with SP Big Boss Tatton Spiller and my incredible SP teammate Lottie Smith. Hello both. The phrase awful April, I can't even say it, has been around loads this week because bills are going up, things are feeling a bit tough. So maybe start me off with a positive. Tell me something good. No pressure.
Well, the sun's out.
Woo!
There you go.
There we go.
I mean, while you're listening to this, the sun may have gone back in. It's probably raining again because rain always comes. Darkness descends on all of our lives. April, awful April, fine. Murderous March.
Wow.
Just awful June.
Wow.
Just even awfuler July. Appalling August. Supernaturally awful September.
No. You're just using awful again. No.
Well, no, because it had an S, another qualifier beforehand that began with S.
Well,
so I think it's okay.
Lottie, surely there's some gem of positivity you can give the listeners.
Tatton stole mine. I was thinking the weather as well.
Fair.
For me, the good thing, I'm 30 next week, so that's keeping me going this April. Is that scary? I don't know if that's awful or good.
No, it's amazing.
That's good.
I'm excited.
Brilliant. Well, remind us, if it's a podcast, remind us and we shall sing.
Oh, no, Lottie's off. Lottie's not around for her birthday.
Oh.
Well, enjoy. Thank you.
Right.
Oh, I know something good.
Yeah.
Lovely listener, you've got 2 weeks off after this. We're not back. So you can enjoy 2 weeks without us in your life. Or I suppose you could go back and listen to old episodes if you just miss our voices. Old episodes are always there, but that's really positive for you, lovely listener. 2 weeks off for good behavior. Well done, you.
Unbelievable. Right.
Oh, another way you could get involved so you don't miss us too much is the Patreon, because I had to pay another invoice this week, and it's just it's genuinely a lot. It's a lot for me to deal with rather than a lot of money. It's like £130 these days. Is the difference between what we pay and what we get in from advertising and from you, our lovely Patreon backers. So it hurts because money's tight at SP, and we love doing the podcast. We love it. I mean, it's the highlight. It's one of the highlights of my week. I can't say it's the highlight of Diane's week because I don't think she enjoys it as much as I do. And Lottie's dragged in every week. But we love doing it, and justifying it is hard. That's why it hurts. It's not a lot financially, but it's a lot. It's a lot. Anyway, so if you do enjoy this podcast, please do have a think about patreon.com // have a think about patreon.com / simple politics.
Yeah, thank you. It really does help. Perfect. Right. Let's go to the first section of the podcast. It is our top posts of the week. As always, we take a look at what has been attracting your attention on all the Simple Politics socials. So, Tatton, what was third place this week?
Right. So in 3 is the morning after pill. It's something I'm tragically ill-equipped to talk about. But if you suspect that your previous day or that day's sexual encounter could have left you pregnant, you can you could either go to your GP or a sexual health clinic who would give you a morning after pill for free, but pharmacies didn't have that capacity. So you would have to pay at the pharmacy. Now, the morning after pill is kind of a good thing if you're a government, because unwanted pregnancies are just a bit rubbish for everyone. You get put in very difficult situation. You have hard choices to make. Like, they are personally very, very difficult. And of course, it makes people less productive if they're pregnant when they don't want to be. And so the government don't like it for that reason. And it's bad in all kinds of ways. So funding has been made available to make the morning after pill free in pharmacies as well, and that's, people are quite pleased about that. There are some people who aren't, because there are some people who say the morning after pill is no replacement for contraception. You shouldn't be having all the unprotected sex and then just pitching up at the pharmacy, taking the morning after pill all the time. It should be a serious thing to do. And people like that say that paying for it helps you remember its seriousness and its severity. Do you know what? We still pay for condoms, but we don't pay for the morning after pill. And that demonstrates an attitude, I suppose, from the government, because if you're promoting unprotected sex, which people could say the morning after pill does, then you're lessening protection against STIs. You're lessening all the other things that can go wrong with unprotected sex.
Yes.
So that's what the critics say. But everyone else, I think the comments on our post were just really pleased.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it doesn't. There are all sorts of reasons why people might need the morning after pill, and it's not often that they are having all the best contraception discussions or education. And so when things happen, could be absolute one-offs, the fact that you might have to pay £30 that you don't have to access something which could be life-changing is I think, a really good move.
They're also, I believe, not foolproof, not 100%. I only say that because I know somebody who took the morning after pill and still had an unwanted pregnancy.
Yeah, it's more effective the closer you take it. So it's
okay.
you can take it up to like 72 hours, but the closer you take it, the more effective it is. So yeah, but interesting, and part of a wider deal with pharmacies, because they were unhappy for a bit.
They're on strike, weren't
They were going to be, yeah. So it looks like that package with the morning after pill agreed seems to have paused that action from pharmacies, community pharmacies. So that's good.
Yeah, that's really good.
Cool. Right, I'll move on to number 2, because I'm sure we've all got something to say on number 2. Number 2, we're talking about the high street, and where do you get your stationery these days? Well, if you're quite flush, if you've got a lot of money, you might still be using WHSmith for your post-its and your bits and bobs. And
really,
well, some people must be, but they've been bought over. So or WHSmith have decided to sell off the high street branches. So the ones you see on the high street, they'll be going. They've been bought by a company who are going to rebrand hilariously and call it like JP Smiths or something. No, not JP Smith. JP Jones. It's going from Smith to Jones.
JP Jones. Oh my god.
Yeah. But the good thing is, it's not that the stores are completely going, it's a rebrand. So it's not terrible news in terms of jobs and things. That's good. It's just the fact that people, it's this nostalgia for the high street, isn't it? And the high street is changed beyond all recognition.
Yeah.
But when Woolworths went, do you remember how big that post was, Tatton? When Woolworths.
Oh yeah.
And
I mean, that's a while ago, but yeah.
Yeah. Wilco's, was some stuff with Wilco's, wasn't there?
We had like a series of big posts about places going,
The
didn't
body
we? And it was
shop.
after the
Oh my
pandemic.
God. Yeah. So, and I think people really, really do feel such a nostalgia for shops that they've seen all their lives. So that's why this created quite a lot of chat. But Smiths are keeping the travel ones because you were quite keen on those, I think. You said you like.
Well, I mean, there's just so many. And you go to an airport, there's just a million WHSmiths. And yeah, like it's the only time I ever go into WHSmith because I don't mind. I think you said on the post picking up a book or a newspaper or something to have a read. But there's a lot. And then on the high street, I don't know why anyone would use them on the high street. We used to get vouchers, WHSmith vouchers at Christmas time because they had books and CDs and whatever else, and so people would think, oh, that's a really nice voucher to get because then they can choose. Except that it's way more expensive than it was at our price across the road to pick up some music. I mean, books were probably the same price because for a long time there was a law you couldn't discount books. Like the
Mm,
price on the back
was the
was what you had to pay because you had to. They did it to protect small bookshops, so the sort of Waterstones couldn't reduce everything. Although now everything's reduced. But our price is another interesting because you were saying people are nostalgic. I saw an article saying our price was returning, and I was like, "Oh, I'd love a music store again," but it's not. It's only returning online, and it's just some guys bought the our price
mm,
name and logo for like 15 quid. But people, on the assumption that people would see our price online and be all nostalgic and buy, I think I bought the Ocean Colour Scene album at our price, and they might go and buy another one for fun. I don't know if it works appealing to that demographic.
yeah, interesting. But yeah, now we've just got vape shops and charity shops.
Until the 1st of June,
Oh yes, yeah, good point.
when it'll just be charity shops and cafes and barbers.
Yeah, that's the lot.
We've got here in Whitstable, we got a lot of Turkish barbers. I don't understand. We don't have a massive Turkish population in Whitstable, so I don't quite understand why Turkish barbers. But there we go. Yeah, a lot of barbers and cafes, and that's about it.
Well, Turkish barber, here in Devon, Turkish barbers almost kind of like refer to the type of barbers that only use clippers, so they don't do any scissor cuts. It's all fades and clippers. But our Turkish barber, they're all Kurdish, so they're not Turkish. But
It's a proper noun. It's a Turkish barber.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, and then you could be from anywhere and still run a Turkish barber. That makes sense. Listen, lovely podcast listener, this is the kind of stuff you could learn.
Yeah.
No other politics podcast drifts off
No.
to be quite so, I don't know, ill-informed.
Yes.
Lucky you.
What's at number one?
Well, politics fans. And number one is a post about the sun. Nothing to do with politics whatsoever. We like to remind people about the clocks changing. We do it twice a year. We enjoy the posts, and you enjoy the posts. They always go down very well. I did a little video, so first of all, always people say, "Oh, we should be British summertime all the time." Yeah, sure. I mean, it came in 1916 after Germany did it first in the First World War, and literally 2 weeks. Literally 2 weeks later, like the whole of Europe joined in to British summertime, so we can make more of the energy. In the Second World War, at the height of summer, we had double summertime, where it was 2 hours ahead. But anyway, there's loads of talk about not changing the clocks, just all moving it all. But that would leave some people having darkness until like 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. in the winter. Because changing the time doesn't give you more sunlight. I think that's the important thing we need to remember. you do not generate sun by calling it a different name. So it's nice that we have it in the summer and it's light from early till late. But in the winter, we need to have the time roughly overlapping the small amount of sunshine we get.
Yeah. I like it. I'm a big fan.
What, the darkness?
No, the lighter evenings. The opposite.
Oh yeah, no, it's lovely. It's lovely. It's that, but that's the thing about the argument to never go back is because people are like, oh, I don't want it to be dark at 4. I want it to be dark at 5 instead. But then if you do that, you just get these miserable mornings. You know those mornings like in January when you pull the curtains and like it doesn't get any lighter.
Yeah.
It's, you would be doing that until 10.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So you think it's very unlikely we'll ever change now? It'll stay.
Well, before last week, I would have said we might change. We might change to not changing. But then I did a bit of research into it. I read around a bit, and I've gone, oh yeah, no, it doesn't make any sense at all. Like I think I think we imagined that if we just changed it, we would get more sunlight. It'd still be light at 8 p.m. like in January, and we could have this blissful time. But it won't. And it makes sense to have pretty much midday as the middle of your light. So if it gets light at 8 and dark at 4, you've got 4 hours either side of midday. And that's generally makes sense for people going to school, for people doing work or whatever. If you shifted it, so it's British summertime all the time, it would be 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. So it's just really dark, and people talk about needing light to be safer on the roads. There's fewer car accidents when it's light, but it's like, but the morning would be dark, so you might have fewer car accidents in the evening, but you're shifting them to the morning when people are feeling more miserable and tired because of the light, all this stuff. So I think the system kind of works. I mean, when it's light all the time, it's easy. Like if in a month's time, it'll be light at 4 a.m. and get dark at 10 in the evening. So you've got 6 hours of darkness, and you can have them pretty much whenever you want.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like 11 p.m. is great because actually we want it to be dark at 11 because then our body clocks, we can naturally go to sleep at 11.
Yeah.
Right? Like you wouldn't want it to be light at midnight, particularly because then everyone would be going to bed while the sun was still up, and it would be strange.
There we go. A brief history of British summertime.
Time. I'm basically Bill Bryson.
Yeah, basically. Right. Let's bring Lottie off of the mute button. Lottie.
Hello.
Oh, there she is.
Been hiding again.
Have you got some questions for us?
We do. We've got some good questions. So first one's from Dave. He says, why can't we have a probationary period for governments or MPs? Why do they get 5 years regardless?
Well, I mean, just very quickly on this, it's democracy. We vote people in. We can't vote for them again every year or 2 years, whatever the probation period might be, because they can't get anything done in that time, right? We don't want politicians getting into government and pulling all the levers so we have, as much now as possible and not caring about what happens after that. We want people to have 5 years so they can put in long-term strategies and think things through. And even with a probationary period, Dave, I don't know if what you're quite envisaging here. Maybe in 2 years we have, like maybe at the start of one government we have an enforced election after 2 years. Maybe just a yes/no referendum as to whether they're doing a good job and whether we need a general election. And then if they pass that, then if they win the next election, they wouldn't need that referendum. Because a probationary period, right? You do a little bit of work and then you prove you're okay. Like Diane's been with us for like 6 years now. She's very much still on probation. See what's going on. I don't know how it works, Dave. I've been trying to think about it since I saw your question, and I can't see it. 5 years is enough time to really see what a government is doing, really see the results of what the government is doing. Like this government are talking a lot about housing, building 1.3 million houses now by the end of the parliament, but they're not building 1/5 of 1.3 million houses this year. They're not expecting to. They're expecting it to ramp up towards the end because they're clearing out the planning that's needed, and they're clearing out the space to then be able to build a lot of houses. So if by the end of this year you'd expect them to have built like whatever 210,000 or whatever it is houses, you'd be like, oh, you haven't done it, and they'd get kicked out because they haven't done their promise. But over 5 years they will do, or that's what they tell us. I mean, 1.3 million is a lot, so we'll see what actually happens. But giving people time to do the things they said they would do is really important. Government doesn't happen quickly.
No, it's very bureaucratic, isn't it? So things do take time. But also, I think for me, the point that you've got someone for 5 years always just reminds me of the gravitas, like seriousness of really voting and making a good decision when you vote, or the best decision you feel that you can make, because you've got these people for a while, and
you got to think about the person. Like I live in Canterbury, as does Lottie, in the Canterbury constituency, and we elected Rosie Duffield, who was the Labour candidate, and then about 25 minutes later, she resigned from the Labour Party. And that, I think that shows the importance of looking at the person, not just voting for the same party every time. There's not been a by-election. There's not going to be one. So for the next 5 years, we are represented by an independent candidate, not a Labour candidate, even though most people voted for it as a Labour candidate. So it's about the person. We choose the people carefully. If you choose carefully, you don't need that probationary period.
Yeah.
Interesting. Right, question 2. So Tom's asked a question regarding the rise in youth crime. He says, how can we give more power to the public and police to handle it?
Ooh. God, this is a big question, Tom, isn't it? And I guess youth crime, the stuff we hear about really is knife crime, isn't it? That's a lot of what we hear about at the minute.
And antisocial behaviour in general.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of feel that there have been some changes recently. There've been quite a lot of laws brought in about more stricter ID procedures when parcels get delivered, and not being able to buy ninja knives and zombie knives and things like that. But for me, I mean, you're asking about powers and people having more power to deal with this. And I guess a lot of people would say, as with all crime, looking into some of the root causes is also pretty key to do as well. So like with youth crime, a lot of it is actually rooted in really adverse childhood experiences, and poverty, and not being in education, and just abuse and things like this. And so I'm not sure that more power is going to help that, unless it's more power given to organizations that can get in and help with tackling that and getting to people who are outside of systems that would pick them up and make sure they didn't fall down the wrong path. So tricky.
I mean, it really is. Like, power can only ever be given top down, right?
Yeah.
You can't that you can just make Judge Dredd style police force, which just breeds more resentment. I've taught in schools in central London and inner London, where young people, just despite the hatred of the police was just a given. And me turning up saying, no, you shouldn't hate the police didn't make all the difference that it might have done. 23-year-old me, yeah, didn't go well. I think, yeah, rather than top down, it needs to be bottom up. It's about culture. And culture is created if in adverse conditions. Culture is created in an adverse manner. Like you're saying, poverty is the issue. So to handle it, power, I don't know, Tom, like Diane, I don't know power. I don't know what more powers we would want. Last week or the week before, we were talking about men and male role models, and we came to exactly this point where culture needs to change, because without that culture change, everything else is fluffing at the sides, right? What are the causes of people behaving in an unsocial way, and then escalating from there to cause actual crimes, like more severe crimes? How are we going to handle it? More social workers, more youth clubs, more. I mean, these are the kinds of things that would work for both men, because men are also young sometimes. It's so hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. I've got a quick question, if that's okay.
Oh,
So I just want to, like, Trump announced the tariffs yesterday, and I was just wondering what's going on with that.
You do ask difficult questions, don't you, Lottie? Right. I mean, very quickly, Trump has slapped on 10%, a 10% tariff on anything coming from the UK. So if you sell something in American supermarkets, for example, they will be 10% higher in price than they were, which will make your purchasing decision. Supply and demand means that people buy cheap things if they can, like, because Americans have also been suffering from a cost of living crisis. So where they may have enjoyed some crunchy cheddar from cheddar, like they will now have American cheese, which we all know is disgusting, but that's what they'll go for, because just financially driven. And what that does is that puts money into the pocket of the dairy farmer in America, who then employs more people, and they love it. But what it does to us is it means the money doesn't come here, which means we don't have the cash, which means that we struggle, and the cheddar gorge cheddar people need to lay off staff because they're not going to send money in. They're not a charity, they're a business, so they're going to lay off staff, and then extra staff, and then so it causes unemployment. And it causes our stock market to go down, because the things they're invested in aren't performing as well. And it's generally very tricky. The good news is, one ray of light is that it's only 10%. Yes, the day before we got the announcement, lots of people saying 20% it would be. And it was 20% for the European Union. So thank goodness for Brexit. If we were still in the European Union, would have 10% extra tariffs on our goods. Boris Johnson and Michael Gove were right back in 2016. They have saved us. They have saved British industry. Well done, them.
I'm just going to laugh a little bit more here, and then that's fine. But I think a lot's going to come out in the wash, isn't it? We don't know. I mean, there's some key industries, isn't there, that are all up in arms about this today. Some products that Americans love that we sell, like Scotch whiskey and different things. So, yeah.
You see, I feel like we're okay on Rolls Royces and whiskey,
Yeah,
because they're already a premium product. So as a luxury, as a treat, you don't buy a bottle of Glenfiddich every day, do you? Like, Like it's a once every 6 months, maybe once in a year, because it sits on your shelf and you only open it at special times, right? So maybe 10% extra on that isn't the end of the world. The same with Rolls Royce. I mean, cars have got higher tariffs on, but I feel like our luxury cars might get through.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, that's the questions I've got for you guys this week. So back over to you guys.
Thanks, Lottie.
Oh, thanks, Lottie.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. Well, we normally have a little chat about something that's going on in our main section. And as a surprise for Tatton, I have decided that we should talk about reform in Reform Watch this week.
The mighty Reform, who have taken us out of Europe, who have saved us from Donald Trump's ire.
Right. Well, Reform. It's been busy times for those guys. They had a bit of turbulence in the party. There was a little bit of infighting. They lost one of their MPs, or got rid of. Didn't lose him. They got rid of him. They removed the party whip from Rupert Lowe. But Farage has been very buoyant this week. He has been really everywhere launching local election campaigns, the length and breadth of the country. And he said that they're pretty much going to field candidates in every single seat in May. Actually, I saw on his social media, he said 99.8%, which I thought was very strange.
I mean, that must be one.
Yeah.
There must be one area where they're not fielding
I'm going to
anyone.
find out where that is today. That's going to be my little thing to do.
I want to know.
Yeah, where are they?
Bristol. I'm going to say Bristol or Brighton.
We'll find out and we'll let you know on Patreon or in comments. But we don't really see a lot of reforms impact at Westminster particularly, but they're definitely out there on the ground at the minute, right?
Well, they don't. I mean, there are now only 4 MPs, and we know that it's hard to make much impact, and you don't get a question at PMQs all the time. You don't. But also, they turn up very, very little. Like they're not there. But they're playing a different game, And it's interesting because Rupert Lowe criticised Nigel Farage, and then the very next day was thrown out of the party for completely separate reasons that had nothing to do with the timing of him criticising Nigel Farage. And there are a long list of people who Farage has argued with over the years, who welcomed Rupert Lowe into their arms. Lots of messages for Rupert Lowe, public ones, saying, welcome to the binned by Nigel gang, or whatever they called themselves. And from my understanding, Nigel Farage is very, very, very close to Zia Youssef, who is the treasurer. Like he's a millionaire and he's donated loads of money, but him and Nigel Farage are now the unit. And Richard Tice, who used to be the leader and stepped aside and welcomed Nigel in, is being pushed out because he doesn't believe in exactly the same things as Farage. We've got Farage and Youssef as the big two in this party, even though Youssef isn't an MP. But they're going around the country right now, and it feels like a victory lap. Like they are holding. There's one in Kent, not far from where I'm talking to you now. It's like a few thousand people turn up. They do things at kind of big arenas and with kind of sparkly fires and all this stuff. And Zia Youssef and Nigel Farage are doing every one of them, the two of them, and people love it. People love it. People know. People feel they know what reform stand for. People feel they can connect with that, with the disaffectedness that they have. No one really knows what Conservatives stand for. Quite deliberately, in fact, Kemi Badenoch says we're not doing policies yet. We're taking time to stop and reflect and all of that, which is all fair enough, because they're aiming for the general election in 4 years' time. So let's take a moment, let's take a beat. Labour Party have not been quite as transparent about plans. They will say that they never expected a £22 billion black hole and they need to sort that out. Some of that's not true, but some of it is genuinely true, and they're doing that. So there's one party who is standing up and banging a drum, and that is drawing people in like you wouldn't believe. I think Reform will be the biggest party in the local elections this year. I think they're going to get loads of votes. There's some mayors knocking about. We're going to see lots of Reform mayors. A lot of England. It used to be the whole of England, but now some have been postponed because of the mayors coming in next year. Here in Kent, like, Reform are going to win every vote. Like, they're just going to win by miles and miles and miles and miles. Across the country, we're going to see Reform victory after Reform victory, and that momentum means something in and of itself. So they will feel like the oncoming storm, and then next year we got Senate elections, and they're going to win loads of seats in the Senate elections. They may even form a government in Wales, which would be their first government. And if they can build and build and build, then we are looking at something remarkable at the next general election. They could go from 4 MPs to lots of MPs. I saw some polling recently that said that they would be the biggest. If there's general election this week, they would have the most MPs. They wouldn't quite have enough to form a government on their own, but they would have the most MPs, which would make Nigel Farage Prime Minister. Huh. They are saying things that people want to hear, and they're saying them in ways that people want to hear them, and they're engaging people who have not previously been engaged, as well as winning people over from the Conservatives and from the Labour Party, and presumably the Lib Dems, although we hear very little about the Lib Dems these days.
Well, it will be interesting. I think the thing here is, clearly they are building momentum. Clearly, the locals are going to be a wake-up call to the other parties, really, to say, you can't not take these guys seriously anymore. There is a, like you say, it's people feeling disconnected. That's what they're tapping into. And so what do the other bigger parties do, the more mainstream parties do, about people who are feeling disconnected? And if they don't do that, then they're going to still lose people to Reform.
But Diane, you and I have been complaining about parties not trying to connect like I say, you've been with us 6 years or whatever it is, like since you joined, we've been upset, right?
Yeah.
So there is no effort from parties. Like, you never get Keir Starmer or Kemi Badenoch coming to Kent with fireworks, standing on stage with things going off around them. That's engaging. That's show business. That's using show business tactics in politics. When I suggested this on national TV, people weren't delighted with me. But I want PMQs I want PMQs on primetime TV live from the Manchester Co-op Arena. I want Keir Starmer being introduced by Michael Buffer, right? I want showbiz and pizzazz, and people will watch it. But we hide it away. We deliberately do Parliament at times when no one can see it. And then you get people who actually do try to engage. Look what happened with Jeremy Corbyn. He tried to engage people, and he was speaking on the pyramid stage at Glastonbury.
Yeah.
And people adored him. Then it went wrong. Some people still like him now, but he's not as popular as he was than now. But that's what happens when MPs engage with the people and try to talk to them. Nigel Farage and Jeremy Corbyn have been so much more popular with the people, and they really tried and they made an effort, and that matters.
Right. We have to leave it there. Though it's, I mean,
we will hear more about it. We will reform as a story we're going to come back to again and again and again.
Yeah. Okay. Right. On to, you've already given the game away that we've got 2 weeks off because of Easter. And it's not just us. We've got a...
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Just seen the script.
Yeah,
Sorry, Diane.
it's okay. Our crystal ball says there are 2 weeks coming up. Parliament is also off for most of that as well, although they are in for a couple of days next week. And I know that one of those days is pretty much the highlight of your 2025 so far. So I'll let you tell everybody about that, Tatton.
All right, lovely people. It's the Liaison Committee. It is the greatest 2 hours, 90 minutes of your life, probably. The Prime Minister pitches up in front of lots of people, and those people are the chairs of every single select committee. So these are the best MPs for the best asking the questions, and the Prime Minister has to sit and take questions from them, for 90 minutes. And most importantly is each MP gets their own 5-minute slot, and they can keep coming back at the Prime Minister, not in like a PMQs way, but really needling and nudging and trying to find out what's really going on and get to the story, get to the nub. It's very lovely to watch. Now, I am on holiday next week. We are an all-inclusive in the Costa del Sol. But between 2:30 and 4 o'clock, which will be 3:30 and 5 o'clock my time, clock fans, I shall be. I presume they'll have like a big screen, like by the pool, showing it.
Presumably.
I'd imagine so. But if not, I will be in my room with the windows closed, curtains down, enjoying the Liaison Committee on Parliament Live. I'm genuinely excited for it.
Excellent. Well, we will keep you posted if there's any juicy bits to be had after that Liaison Committee, and keep your eyes on the page next week. And as Tatton says, catch up with any podcasts you haven't listened to, and we will be back with the next series of Simple Politics podcasts after the break. Enjoy. Thanks, everyone.
Just one last thing before we go. We're not officially launching it yet. When you hear this, it won't exist, so shush. But Simple Money is coming. Simple Money, simple_money UK on the old Instagram and Facebook, I think. And just join us on there. It's going to be amazing.
Fab. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.